Thank you very much, David. That was an incredibly interesting presentation, and thank you particularly for being so open and honest about the figures of your practice, which would be hard to get from, I think, Irish practices here, but we really do appreciate it, and you certainly make a convincing business case for people to convert to BIM. I think most Irish businesses would be extremely pleased to have those kind of figures and returns over the last number of years. So before we go to the workshop, are there any particular questions that anybody would like for David at this stage? If we wanted to take one or two questions. Yep.
David, John Bennett from Daytech Ireland. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. Very interesting. Just one quick question. You've done a huge amount of analysis on your business and where it's gone over the last number of years. Have you analysed the consequences if you had not invested in BIM a few years ago?
No, I think that would be very difficult for us to second guess. Sorry. I think that would be very difficult for us to second guess. What we're conscious of is that we've got quite demanding repeat clients who have come back to us, not always as the lowest bidder, because we're always in a competitive situation. And we think that's a consequence of the quality of the information that we've been producing at production information stage. So for a contractor client, getting that quality controlled, probably more detailed information than they would have been getting previously, is clearly worth something to them. So I think that's I think that's what's driving the positive impact. But we couldn't analyse. I'd probably say that we perhaps wouldn't win all of the jobs and the practice wouldn't have grown.
Thank you.
You mentioned the interaction with design teams improving. Did you have to convince the rest of the team to get on board with BIM, or are you working with teams that aren't involved? It doesn't matter.
We found that the structural engineers that we're working with are all very keen, and many of them were using it already. We're finding that M&E engineers are a bit slower to take it up, but that's a consequence of how the industry in the UK is constructed. The M&E engineers aren't working to the same to the same sort of program that architects and structural engineers are, and also some of the software wasn't doing what they needed it to do. Though my understanding is that it's catching up quite quickly. In terms of contractors, sort of tier one contractors, we were doing this unilaterally and giving them the information. They didn't necessarily know it was being created in a BIM environment, and they didn't know necessarily that the design team had been collaborating in a BIM environment. What we're finding now, though, is that they're now demanding it. So they're now coming back and saying this project is a BIM project. So they've gone from not knowing what was going on to being a bit intrigued by it to now sort of structuring projects around it.
One more question now, Bernard.
Very nice presentation, thank you. Just a very quick question in relation to the later stages of projects. You've shown some construction sequences that show the sequence of construction that has evolved over time. Is that something that is done in-house, or is that in association with the contractor that they are proposing how the sequence works?
Yeah, those sequences have been developed with the contractors, so that they've given us the program, we've created the representation. But it really is, I mean, the first one took 3 hours to do, so they're not, you know, it's not a difficult thing to do at all. And we're quite sure that those contractors will do it themselves if they're not already doing it themselves.
Okay, sorry, one more question down here. John?
David, I would be very interested to understand how you are succeeding when you're competing with other architectural firms. Are all of them, have all of the firms you're competing with adopted the same level of the deep adoption of BIM that you have actually undertaken in your practice? Or asked another way, what is the actual profile among small architectural practices of adoption of BIM from what you can see in London?
I don't think they are yet. I think they will be very soon. There's a lot of interest in it, but I don't think up until now we have been competing with other people that have been doing it. The change is perhaps going to start to happen this year. What we're finding is we're now getting PQQs with BIM written into them, and we're also beginning to get things like BIM maturity questionnaires. So rather than people just asking, you know, can you use the software or can you use the techniques, they're now actually asking for sort of detailed descriptions of what it is that you've done and how you use them.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more last final question, and then we're short.
David, great presentation. Just in terms of the contracts, is most of your stuff design and build, or would it be paper, traditional build quantities? And are you costs and carbon loading the objects in the model? Are you costs and carbon loading your performance? Have you seen a fall off in more FIs and change orders? And one last question. Color calibration. Do you color calibrate the overhead projectors and your hardware? You know, whether just if you're grinding it.
The colour calibration, no. Probably should, but we haven't. RFIs, yes, but we haven't measured it. But we've done. We've actually done. I really can't remember. Perhaps 12 projects with one particular contractor client. And as we've got more mature with BIM, I'm quite sure we're getting less RFIs. You might have to remind me what it is.
It was just, are you cost loading the objects with carbon cost?
Yeah, at a very high level. So we're doing the first BRIAM assessments using the model, but not the later ones at the moment. But we understand that up until now we've been building the library objects ourselves. Now they're beginning to become available to us from other sources, and our understanding is that some of those sources will start to actually load carbon information onto them before we get them. So that's really the next big change. Is at the moment most people are creating their own content, but that content will become much richer when it starts to be created by the manufacturer.
Okay, thanks.